So I got a buddy of mine who's wanting to make some fly pens, and as much as I'd like to make my own to show him how to do it, I just don't have the time or the resources to do it right now. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to build his pens in miniature using these wooden dowels. And what I've got set up here is a board that will represent the surface that he'll be building on. I've got a couple boards here that I'll tape down a little tighter, and we'll use them to square things up. But basically, the first thing you got to do is you got to prep your site for your building. In order to do that, you're going to need stakes and a string line and a string line level. So you're going to run your string line all the way around the perimeter of your building, and then you're going to level it up with your string level. I believe I covered that in my video on using a string line. And then you're going to take a spade and you're going to make that ground level. You know, you're going to string across, make it level, measure down with your tape measure, and adjust the dirt with your shovel accordingly until it's level. Now you don't need to do all the division sections in between, just get the outside for now. So the pen he wants to build, I will put up a picture right about now. One thing you'll hear me talking about is butting up the 2x4s. I believe he's using all 8-foot 2x4s. What I'm talking about in that situation is you're going to have an upright 2x4 like this, and what you want to do is you want to split the difference on it, and you're going to join your other 2x4s like that. And you're going to drive 2 screws or 2 nails in at a slight angle to secure that. That's when you have a seam. We're going to start lining these up here. And we're going to make this a 4-stall. Now, in order to give this strength, we're going to want to stagger the seams. We don't want the seam to be here in the middle on top and bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut one of these in half. Okay. So now I have 2 pieces that are half length, which represents 4 foot, as long as I cut them right. And instead of nails, I'm going to be using this little hot glue gun, and we're going to find out how well this works. So I'm just going to put a couple dabs of hot glue here on the ends of this board. I'm going to place it up here. Now if this is your 2x4s, you would want this piece here. It'd be sitting like this. You would want it flush at the corner. So this corner up here, you want it flush. Alright, so that's your first piece. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put a full 8-footer down here. But I got to mark it again with that 4-foot mark. This way, the spacing is the same top and bottom. Alright, so that's how you're going to start. Now, your next board is going to be up here at the top, and it's going to be a full 8-footer. And you can see it's starting to take shape already. This is going to be the 8-foot side, the front side of the shed. Now up here we're going to have another one of our 4-footers. So we'll just go ahead and we'll put this one here at the end. Now the important thing on setting this kind of stuff up is you want to get it square. That's why it's good to build as much of this on the ground as possible before you stand it up, because that gives you the opportunity to get everything square where you want it. Alright, so we're going to leave that set. While it's setting up, we want to talk about the tin that's going to go across the tops and bottoms here. Now for this front section, since it's going to have the doors on it, he can either do a 4-foot wide door in each section, or he can split it and do a 2-foot wide door, which can get kind of narrow. So we're going to just leave this as is for now. The next step is I'm going to start making the back wall. Just like that, through the magic of film editing, I have completed the back wall. You may notice that it's slightly different from the first wall we did. For starters, it is 6 foot tall instead of 8 foot tall. This allows for slope. And you've also got this set of boards going here. Now earlier, I said we were going to do the stagger up at the top. However, since we're going to have 3 sets of 2x4s running across the back, I decided to go with full 2x4s top and bottom, and then center a full 2x4 in the middle, and put the 4-foot pieces on either side of that. These smaller boards represent 2x4s, or whatever you want to use, plank, and you tack those in the corner temporarily to help hold the structure square while you're adjusting it, standing it up, that kind of thing. So, in order to make sure it's square, all you got to do is take your tape measure and 2 people, or if you got to know how to hook it, you can put a nail in there and hook it, and measure from here to here, and then from here to here on each wall. The measurement should be identical if it is square. If it's not, you got to shift it a little bit till it's there. And if you still can't get it right, then you have something cut wrong and one side's longer than the other, and then you need to adjust that. The next big thing you're going to want to do is stand these up. But there's actually a little bit more work you can do before you do that. This back wall, the reason it has this center board is to attach your steel and your wire. So we'll go ahead and we'll put the wire on here and we'll put the steel on here, and then we'll stand it up. Since the steel is going to cover this, I will not need this board. In order to not have a gap here and to create a proper surface for your steel to sit on, you're going to have to cut a couple pieces of stub 2x4. You're going to have to stick these down in there. This will create a flush surface for your steel to rest on. So there you go. You can see that little stub in there that you'll attach your steel to. Now for the steel, I'm just going to use some painter's tape to represent that. Nothing fancy. Alright. So now you've got your steel and wire on the back piece. Ideally, you're going to want to have multiple people to help you with this next step, and you're going to want them all to have 6-inch torpedo levels. But what you're going to do is you're going to get this in position with where you want it, and then you're going to come along and you're going to brace it in place. So you'll come over here and you'll stand it up in place like that. That's actually going to stay for me. I can't believe that. But just to keep it from falling over, you take a couple more 2x4s and you're going to brace it. And if you want to be really cautious about it, you can put stakes in the ground here and stake the other end of your 2x4. But that is to help keep it upright. And then what you're going to do is you're going to repeat that with your other wall here. Like this. You're going to walk it up. You're going to brace it. I like to brace them on the inside of the frame because I know that I'm going to be working on the outside of the frame next. Okay, so now you've got both pieces standing upright, and they are secured from falling, like that. So the next thing is to start putting on your sides. This we're going to go ahead and stick with the 8-foot dimension, and you're going to go around at the bottom first, and you're going to come up to the height of your steel and come across. You're going to go and repeat that on the other side. So you may notice that the 8-footer going across the center here actually shoots out past the front. The reason for that is because when I went to the bottom for added security, I went from the outside board to the outside board. In order to match that, I needed to do the same thing out here, except there isn't an outside board running down the front. So I just have to run that long and cut it off. I will now do the other side, and once that's done, these little braces can come off. Okay, so I had to let my camera charge, and while it was doing that, I went ahead and put the middle divides in, and basically the ones in the bottom here, you're going to want to cut them so that they fit inside from back wall to front wall, and you're going to nail them from the outside and also into your upright. You're then going to repeat the same process up here at the top and bring it up to the same height as your tin. You're also going to want to cut some more stubs and put them on the outside corners, as well as right up here in the doorway. That way you've got a nice solid surface to attach your tin to. Again, back here in the back, you can do that also, but you can run your tin long and butt it up against the tin that's in the back. I went ahead and just left these long when I attached them. And basically what you would do there is you would just run along with your saw and cut them flush with your uprights once you had them all in place. So the next thing you've got to do after all this is your roof. And with that, I would strongly recommend, since you're doing the 8-foot tall and 8-foot deep pens, to go with at least 10-foot 2x4s, if not 12s, just because of all the snow you get there in Colorado. There we go. So this is one of your 8-foot 2x4s. If you put it up here, it will reach, but you've got no overhang whatsoever. By comparison, this is, let's see, so this is a 4-incher, so this is a 5-incher, so this is the difference between an 8-foot and 10-foot piece. So again, here's your 8-foot, but if you do a 10-foot, it's going to give you about a foot of overhang to each side, and you're going to want at least that. I would try to get 12-footers so you could have 2 foot on each side of overhang. Now, depending on if you're going to use 2x4s or if you're going to go with like 2x6s, something a little beefier, you can either put a 2x4 every like a 2x6 every 4 foot, or a 2x4 every 2 foot. So for this model, I'm going to go ahead and put them every 2 foot. So I'll just go ahead and get those put on there real quick. And obviously, this being a model and me kind of doing it the way I'm doing it, it's not going to be completely perfect. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what you're going to want to do and how to do it and in what steps. Now when you use 2x4s or 2x6s for rafters like this and you don't notch them or anything like that, you're going to create a gap in between the rafters here, and I would recommend wiring that shut with hardware cloth to keep sparrows and stuff out. I mean, I don't know if you're going to use 2x4 wire or what kind of wire you're going to want for the rest of the pen, but it never hurts to keep them like that, because things can crawl in there and kill your birds, obviously. So once you've got your boards coming across, you're going to want to probably put a board along the fronts here and another set of boards along the backs here, and that just kind of helps to tie them in. You don't have to do that, it just helps. When you lay your dimensional lumber up there, you want it to sit like this. I see a lot of pens where people put it like this, and that just lets it sag over time. It's much stronger like this. So basically, that is the frame, and you can tell that my post must not have been completely even on the front wall because the roof kind of waves a little bit. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the steel on here and try to saw off those extra pieces. I know that eventually what you want is you want to have pens on both sides with a walkway down through them, So all you got to do is you got to make a set like this, and then make a set like this on the opposite side, and take an 8-foot 2x4 and run it halfway in from both of them to form your peak. Eventually you're going to want to make this into a shed that you have a walkway down through the middle. All you got to do is you just got to make this in the reverse on the other side, make sure they're square to one another, and then you're going to run your 8-foot 2x4 4 foot in on top of this pole here, and you're going to nail them. I believe they call it sistering. You're going to sister it to this one here. So let me go ahead and glue. So basically what that does is it extends your board, but it gives enough support by nailing 4 foot back. As I was saying, you build one of these over here. I just temped up the front wall just to give you the example. Then you take your 8-foot 2x4 or 2x6, whichever you decided on, and you nail back 4 foot of it into the existing roof on either side. Bring it together in the middle to make your pitch on your roof. Brace it underneath across the center, and then you just go ahead and fill the roof in over top of it, and you'll have your walkway. Now that should give you about, I'm going to say an 8-foot walkway roughly. Let's see here. At least an 8-foot walkway. So then if you want to completely enclose it, you would just put a board down here at the bottom, bring some uprights up to help support the roof on either end, put your doors, your windows in, that kind of thing. Otherwise you can leave it open to drive through. With this kind of space you could easily put a set of drop pens down through the middle. And so one more thing before I wrap this up is the door. I'm going to explain to you how you're going to do that. You're going to measure from your bottom. Let me get something to point with here. You can measure from your bottom board to your top board. And you're going to take that measurement and take about 2 inches off. That gives you a little bit of gap top and bottom. And then you're going to measure from this 2x4 over to this post here, and again you're going to take excuse me, you're going to take about 1 inch or 2 inches off. What this does is it keeps it from being an extremely tight fit, and it allows for swelling and for the door to sag over time, things like that. Now, at this point, you can decide if you want to put a roost back here or on the door. And keep in mind, you're going to want to put your tin across the door also. So you're going to have to build up that bottom portion just like we did here with those little stub pieces. Your hinges are going to go on this side because it's a seam that is unobstructed by this 2x4, so your latch system will go over here. And to make your door, you're just basically going to repeat the same concept as your walls, except just on a smaller scale. Okay, to build your door, you're just going to repeat the same process that you used for your walls. You've actually got 2 different options here. You can set your door so that everything is flush and they set inside of each other, which will keep your door lighter because then you can just put your steel on right here with another board in the middle and everything's flush. Otherwise you're going to have to put some little extra pieces in here to take care of the gap between the steel, or just run really long screws in and suck the steel in, since it will have some flex. And then you're going to measure your steel and put in your piece in the middle according to the steel. Just like over here, you want it so that the steel takes up about the bottom half, and then you've got the top half to put your wire on. Backing to that steel, but you're going to preferably have it go the full length from here to here on the inside. That way there's no gaps, so that if you decide to use these as brood pens or grow out pens, the chicks aren't going to escape. Going to use some tape to represent the hinges, and I'm going to hinge it. One thing that I forgot to mention is before you put, one thing I forgot to mention is before you put the steel on your door and this piece right here, you're going to want to go ahead and put your hinges. I probably put one here, and one here at the very least. The reason you don't want to put the hinges on afterwards is, as you can see, you'd have hinges up here and you'd have hinges down here, and then it wouldn't hinge right unless you're going to put a hinge clear at the top. Now, the easiest thing when you're hanging a door, especially by yourself, is to take a couple of screws, and you can put a board across here, get it into position, and then you just screw it to the other uprights next to it so that you can get it hinged, and then you just take that board off. Otherwise, your other option would be to run screws in from the side, and then you can hinge it. But basically, we'll see if this tape holds here. That gives you your door, and you can see there's quite a bit of gap at the top here. That's just because of the dimensions of the sticks I'm using in the model. It wouldn't be nearly that noticeable in your actual building. It's only going to be about, it's going to be less than 2 inches basically, because the dimensions of a 2x4 are not truly 2x4. Now, for your roost, again, you got options. You can put one back here. You can hang one on the door, but that's added weight. You can put roost poles down through the middle. There's all kinds of stuff you can do with that. And I was thinking the other night when I was talking about you can just frame this in and make it a solid wall on both ends. One of the nice things about that is it gives you a way to pen up your free range birds, because what I would do is I would put a divide down through the middle here with a door in it, and then the door on either side, and I would get those birds used to coming in here for either food or water or shade or something. And then basically, or you can put some removable roosts in there and give them something to roost on. So, like an A-frame, and then just pull it out through the door. So then once they get used to that, all you have to do is go out there and shut them in at night, and then you've got them caught. But like I said, this open space here, you've got all kinds of possibilities that you can do with it. So, okay, so if my numbers are correct, in order to build just this section over here, just one of them for 4 stalls, it's going to take you 53 8-foot 2x4s, and that's if you don't mess any of them up. So then to build the opposite side, that's going to take an additional 53, and then your rafters, if you're doing just this simple setup here, that's going to take you at least 18, depending on what you decide to use for a brace here. If you're going to use 2x4s for that also, then you're going to need probably another 27 instead of 18. So altogether, to build this, you're going to need at least 133 8-foot 2x4s. And like I said, that's if you don't mess any of them up. So, good thing about that is I'm pretty sure that's considered buying in bulk. So you might be able to get a discount. They might even deliver a whole pallet to you. So, anyway, Will, I hope this helps. Thank you for watching, everybody. Have a good one.